Hey guys, and welcome to round 4 here at the Texas Regionals. I'm Regina.
I'm Gabby, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Glad we cleared that
That's what
up.
they told me, at least.
Oh, well,
so
that's
let's
not
hope so. Okay, I'm real talk here. I cannot believe that it's round 4. It feels like such a long day.
I know. Well, it doesn't help that we did have the extended round for round 3. And for those of you at home, there will also be another extended round going into round 4. This is kind of the compromise between dedicated lunch break time and having rounds continue. So, unfortunately, there's actually a pretty short line at the food place around here. So, I think most players are going to have time to, like, get food and, you know, hydrate. Hydration's important.
That's what I forgot to do before we went live, is drink water. Whoops.
I know. Well, you know, I mean, you're just stuck here for the next, like, what, hour or so with me?
You said no, that's good. That's such a good thing.
Okay.
You're one of my favorite people. Yeah, I mean, hey, like, we ate. We got free stuff. There was, like, so much free stuff here, and I love it.
I know. They have a Nintendo rep out in the hallway, they have a bunch of swag from, like, Mario, Pokemon.
They had a Legend of Zelda poster that I did not pick up, and I kind of regret it.
Those are gone now. Yeah. I didn't see them at all.
They were really cute.
Darn it.
They have postcards from Mario Odyssey, but I just really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and then there's also side events going on. There's a Pokemon Go tournament tonight. So if you ever wanted to do competitive button smashing.
No. That's how I play Smash.
I mean, me too, but you know.
Competitive button smashing to me.
But yeah, no, there's so much stuff going on here at the Dallas Regional Championship. So if you're in the area, you know, I think there's going to be more activities tomorrow. So definitely, you know, stop by if you can. But, you know, for those of you at home, we're going to be bringing you some VGC action, I think.
Oh, yeah. I'm waiting for the Dancing Dragons for you. Like, I'm crossing my fingers for that
next time. I said that next time I was on stream, it was going to be Dancing Dragons. But then I saw something really, like, cool and bizarre and a little bit, I guess cold would be more appropriate than cool. That
it's gonna get chilly up in here.
Yeah, I know. So you know, I couldn't resist saying, "Hey, let's feature some Kurum on stream."
Oh, it'll be fun. I mean, I think it's one of those Pokemon that people kind of look at and be like, it's a little weird, but let's see what we can do with it. Like, I know for sure that one of the girls at my local, so Haley, she ran that. She committed to Kurum during Sun Series.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she actually brought it for today's regionals.
I actually played her during the online tournament that they did on BattleSpot back in, what was it, like November?
Yeah.
And she kicked my butt with it. So
Karen White's an interesting
It's
Pokemon.
Scary. Like, I think the thing is, its typing is somehow really good. You know, there's not a lot of ice Pokemon that can take advantage of the same type attack bonus in this format. And with, I believe it's Ice Burn is its signature move. You know, that's base power 140, 90% accuracy.
Gosh.
Yes, it has to charge, but you can use an item like, I believe it's White Herb, or Power Herb, just like with Xerneas, and, you know, just kind of get rid of that charging phase. So I certainly am terrified of it. I would be,
gives you the chills?
Oh my God. That was the pun I was looking for, but it just did not come to mind in time. So thank you.
I just wrote, I was like, oh.
You complete me.
this is great. But it'll be fun because you know, they're setting up and all of that. But so we've got Meghan Hyman versus Brandon Meckley. So it'll be kind of fun to see. They're both undefeated right now.
Yeah, they are. They're both 3-0. We're still featuring undefeated players for a few more rounds before we go into the win and
out of 8 rounds for people still wondering. This is out of 8 rounds. So we're about halfway there.
After this, we will be halfway there. So feels good.
Yeah, it feels like such a long day, and I do like it a lot. But like you said, there is a lot of stuff to do. And I'm actually really excited to see exactly what's happening on the team. I think what the fun part about this regional is I've been asking people like, oh, what's on your team this weekend?
Yeah,
and then
me
pull
too.
something out, and it's like, all right, okay, wasn't expecting that. I mean, I don't want to reveal anybody's like teams because I don't know who's bringing what, but I have heard some Gengar talk out there as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so that's been also really fun.
Nice. Well, you know, I've heard a little bit about Meghan and a little bit about Brandon. Can you tell me more about these players?
So Meghan did make top 32 at Collinsville in 16.
Okay, so that was the last format that the restricted were allowed.
So I'm assuming that she has a lot of comfortability in this. I mean, obviously a couple of changes since then, but I think generally people who performed well in 16 have really loved this format thus far. She did have like her other cut that she's proud of is like a top 8 out of mid-season and 18 as well. 18 being, I think, I don't think it's been the favorite of a lot of people. I think it's been
it was interesting. You know, I think that a lot of players kind of suffer from hindsight. I feel like a lot of times during the format, you know, people tend to say stuff like, this is the worst thing ever. And then you look back on it and it's like, oh, yeah, that was nice. But anyways, what about Brandon?
So Brandon has, he came in second at the Mexico Regionals in 2017, which I don't think they have one this year from what I've heard. I think they're trying their best to. And then came first actually in Costa Mesa in 18.
Oh, so that was just
was last year.
Oh yeah, it's 2019.
Yeah, it's 2019.
Whoops.
Yep. So for those of you still writing your dates with pen and paper or pen, with pencil and pen,
that's
please
a problem.
don't write an 8. It's a 9.
And
it's a little bit tough.
It's I think it's also really curious. Winning a regional and doing so well in multiple formats. You know, Brandon, he's not someone that we see on stream often, probably outside of those top cuts, but definitely somebody who knows what he's doing. You know, he's obviously familiar with playing on such a large stage like this, and he can deal with the pressure. So I really want to see what kind of Pokemon he's bringing to this game. You know, we hinted at it before. Might as well just say it now. We are going to see the Kyurem White on his side of the field, which it has to have some specific purpose, and I'm really excited to see what that purpose is going to be and what other Pokemon he's bringing to the field that are going to help it do that whole ice burn thing.
Yeah, because I think Kyurem White is one of those Pokemon where it's a fun Pokemon to consider, but I think it's also been struggling to find a niche or a good place, especially in the same vein as Palkia, where Palkia people were trying really hard in Sun to make it, but Moon series is where it had that ability to get the Z Crystal and really kind of helped it boost its power and viability. Yeah,
being able to hit for big damage when you use a Z move, for example, is really something. We didn't have those kind of big damage moves back in the Sun
16?
format.
Oh, yeah.
And 16 too. But, looking back more recently, there were Pokemon like Xerneas or even Zygarde, really, who if they clicked their boost buttons enough times, they could, hit for big damage, but that takes time. The benefit of having these Z crystals back in the format is the second you send a Pokemon out on the field that's holding one, it's available to you. Yeah. You don't have to use it, which I think is, a benefit to maybe like a Choice Band or a Choice Specs, which would be the other comparison that you could make. And I think, again, more flexibility just lets you play the game you want to play, and if you need something to donk, like a very specific thing very quickly, that's how you do it.
Yeah, and I feel like Z Crystals have had a more interesting viability here, but we are going to be going to your team preview now, guys. We will be having Meghan on your left side at some point here with that Xerneas, Groudon, Incineroar, Venusaur, Talonflame, and Tapu Koko. And on your right side, Brandon with that Incineroar, Tapu Koko, Solgaleo, Tapu Fini, Serena, and that Kyurem White.
That is a really interesting team from Brandon. I mean, there's none of the Kyogre or Groudon, which we've been seeing a lot throughout the day. Instead, opting for that Solgaleo, like not even the Necrozma Duskmane form, just plain old Solgaleo with that Full Metal Body ability that negates any sort of stat drops. It looks like his team is sort of set up to support maybe the Solgaleo and the Kyurem White. Tapu Fini is an interesting pick, in my opinion. Maybe he'll be using that Misty Terrain to try and side swagger and get some attack boost or something up. But overall, I think it's something very unique, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out. Meghan, on the other hand, we've seen Groudon, we've seen Xerneas, we've seen Venusaur, but you mentioned the Talonflame.
Love Talonflame. I think it's a really cool Pokemon in the format because that Gale Wings ability and having the Flying Z, you've got that hard-hitting priority Z move then at that point, and it's just... I think it's a really good counter to Amoonguss, and it's kind of a scary Pokemon to have to face down.
Yeah, and it also benefits from, fire typing, so it can hit Pokemon like Kartana pretty hard. And it can also Prankster Tailwind, which is something that we really only see from Tornadus otherwise. So it's certainly a very unique pick, and it benefits, I think, from the team composition that Meghan has. But I really want to see it in play, and I really want to see how these trainers are going to sort of tackle this game, because I feel like for Meghan, she's just going to want to get Sun up as soon as possible and use that Venusaur and use that Talonflame and just do what do what they do best.
Yeah, and so Meghan's actually going to be leading with that Groudon and Incineroar, and Incineroar and Tapu Fini actually on Brandon's side of the field. So like you said, interested about that, Tapu Fini is going to be getting that Misty Train up on the field, so no status effects for Pokemon that are grounded. We do have 2 Fake Out potentials here. It has its own Misty Seed actually that's going to be activating, so raising that special defense is going to make it harder to take out, as we've got this Groudon now bringing in that Sun. And so now it's a matter of seeing which Incineroar has the potential to get the Fake Out first. It is going to be Meghan's Intimidate that's going to go first on the field, followed Brandon, so has that potential to be the faster Fake Out.
Yeah, and that's just going to depend on how these cats are trained. Tapu Fini with the Misty Seed, I think, indicates that it's probably more of a bulky support set. I don't know how well that's going to fare right now, because Groudon and Incineroar on the physical side for damage. So maybe this Tapu Fini is just going to want to, you know, set up maybe some kind of like speed control or something. It does have access to Icy Wind, and going for like a Fake Out onto the Groudon plus an Icy Wind would put him in Brandon in a really good spot going into the second turn.
And we are going to get a terrain change, as that Incineroar on Meghan's side is going to be switched out for that Tapu Koko. So going to get the electric train up as opposed to that Misty Train from before. Actually, a double switch out from Incineroars from both players here. So no, no Fake Outs. We do get the Kyurem White though on the field here for Brandon's side of the field. And is going to have that Mold Breaker-esque ability here, as that Groudon is going for the Protect, so not going to get hit by whatever this Tapu Fini is going to go for, which is actually going for Nature's Madness, and it goes into that Tapu Koko, which was that Incineroar, is going to take down that Tapu Koko to half health immediately on that switch in.
Overall, though, I think a Tapu Koko at half health is better than an Incineroar at half health, because Tapu Koko, you know, not really known to be bulky except if it's running that Assault Vest variant, which I would be surprised to see on Meghan's kind of team. I think that was a really good switch for her. I think she definitely sort of mitigated that Nature's Madness as best as she could. But now, you know, the Tapu Fini and the Kyurem are on the field, Brandon, and I think that's something that she's really going to have to worry about. You have to remember, Groudon in its non-primal reversion form is just a pure ground-type Pokemon, so those Ice-type moves are going to deal a nice chunk of damage to it, if not knock it out outright. So she has to be very defensive, I think, going into this next turn if she wants her Groudon to stick around.
And Tapu Fini going to get out of there as this Incineroar is brought back. So the Groudon on Meghan's side is actually going to be at -2 now, thanks to that Intimidate once more. Also has that Fake Out potential once again. But the Misty Seed boost is going to be gone. But Meghan's saying, nope, don't want to risk this. Groudon is going to bring in her own Incineroar, so these cats are coming back out to play.
It's a revolving door of cats, really.
That's fine. Cats. So it's going to get the Intimidate into both of Brandon's Pokemon right now. And we do have a Volt Switch from the Tapu Koko, so going to be able to at least let Meghan pivot. Does do a little bit more damage thanks to the fact that it is on terrain.
I wonder what she's going to pivot to here, though. I mean, she already has the Incineroar out on the field, and I doubt she'd want her Tapu Koko to take another attack, knowing that the Tapu Fini is still in the back of Brandon's team.
Yeah, and we...
Oh, well, that was the Tapu Koko. My bad. Oh, dear.
I wonder which Pokemon
dear. Okay, good. For a second, I was like, is this going to be
get faked out?
I know. Fake out your commentators. That's like a big brain play right there.
Ooh, and Kyurem went actually going for an Earth Power here onto that Incineroar on that switch. It does a lot of damage, though, and it wasn't that Groudon, so I think that was a really good move call for him.
It was, but fortunately, you know, hitting the Incineroar is also going to be super effective, and because it's a special typed move, it doesn't lose its power from the Intimidate. So this Kyurem is set up to do well, I think, this turn. Brandon just has to make sure he's going to be able to keep the momentum going, and I believe he does have a Fake Out available to him right now, and so I think the idea here most likely will be to Fake Out that Xerneas and go for either damage or set yourself up so you can deal with it in the future, and that's what this Solgaleo is most likely going to want to do.
Yep, that Kyurem is getting out of there as the Fake Out from Meghan's side is going to be faster than the Incineroar on Brandon's side. As from that Xerneas, so no setup on this turn, is going to go for damage into that Solgaleo, but taking it like a champ there, and, you know, does switch in rather comfortably here.
Yeah, Solgaleo honestly has some of the best typing in the game right now. I mean, yes, if you're a Psychic Steel type, you do take super effective damage from ground type moves and Groudon and fire type moves like Incineroar and Dark type moves, but Solgaleo is bulky enough that it can run something like either an assault vest or a weakness policy and take advantage of that bulk regardless of what kind of move it's being hit with. So Brandon, I think, again, setting himself up so he can keep dealing consistent damage as Meghan's forced to keep switching. And this is really going to start to wear on her. The Tapu Koko is at half of its health. Now the Incineroar is at half of its health. And there's a high probability that this Groudon is going to take some damage this turn as well.
Yeah, and that Xerneas doesn't want to take that damage, though, as it does hide behind that protect. Superpower from that Solgaleo is going to go into that Groudon, though, and does get a critical hit, does get the drop in the attack and the defense, but that Groudon, every single Pokemon that she has switched in here has been taking health. That Flare Blitz goes into the protect spot. However, that Groudon did not come in safely at all. Now she's got that Incineroar and this Groudon all half health.
Yeah, Brandon only needs a couple of big plays, I think, in order to swing the momentum in his favor for round one. The Groudon here could go for something like the Precipice Blades, but you have to worry about accuracy, and you have to worry about, the fact that if the Incineroar and the Solgaleo decide that they can take that Precipice Blades and then retaliate, that Groudon's going to get knocked out.
Yeah, and there's a Tapu Fini in the back, too, that can take that really well.
Oh, without a doubt. Brandon has so many options for him on the board. I really like how he's pressuring Meghan to keep switching, really just by, cycling that Intimidate almost. And it looks like she's going to be switching again, so this might be the end of her own Incineroar for this game one.
Yeah, so that Incineroar going to come in again for that Xerneas. Is going to get Intimidate only on that Incineroar on Brandon's side of the field because that full Metal Body is going to keep those stats from being lowered. So this Solgaleo is at -1 though because of superpower, but is able to still do some good damage there. It does go for the Sunsteel Strike. So none of Meghan's Pokemon here are really ever safe.
No, they aren't, and I like how this Solgaleo kind of charged into that Xerneas regardless of what it does. There's the first Precipice Blades of this game, and it does double connect. So
yeah, I think...
Yeah, that's what that does. It's risky. Precipice Blades is not the most accurate move, as I think anybody who played the 2016 format remembers.
Or Sun Series.
Really well. But when it does hit, you can get those big knockouts, and all of a sudden we're down to a 4-2 game. So, Meghan's Pokemon are weakened, but Brandon can't switch anymore, and that was sort of where a lot of his offensive pressure was coming from.
I think, though, having a Kyurem White and a Tapu Fini on the field isn't exactly the worst case you could find yourself, especially when both of these Pokemon are at full health. And that Kyurem White we saw did have that Earth Power, so could knock out that Incineroar.
Or the Groudon, really.
Yeah, and so I think still in an okay place, like down 2 Pokemon, but we also have to consider the health of Meghan's Pokemon.
Yes. I think the most important Pokemon to highlight on her side of the field right now is going to be that Xerneas. It is still at full health, and it has a favorable matchup against the Kyurem White. So she needs to figure out a way to get the Xerneas, I think, in the right position to be able to sort of double down into that Kyurem White. Maybe avoid some of the Nature's Madnesses or other sort of, I'm assuming more like slow, make the match go at Brandon's pace kind of moves that it has at this point. But again, the best part for Meghan is that when you have 2 Pokemon together like this, you know which one's going to be doing the most damage.
Yeah, so that Fake Out going into that Kyurem White, as Icy Wind is going to be the second move here revealed by Tapu Fini. Going to make sure to lower the speed of both the Pokemon here. Does super effective damage on that Groudon. But more importantly, at least both these Pokemon are at -1 speed. It's going to make sure that that Kyurem White is going to be set up to be faster for later on. Does activate the Berry, though, on Meghan's Incineroar, so going to get a lot of that health back, and it's going to make it a little bit harder to get rid of now.
Yeah, but I think any chip damage onto that Incineroar is going to be enough to knock it out with something like an Earth Power.
And a double connect for that Precipice Blades here, as that Kyurem is now at half health. That Tapu Fini, though, still taking it pretty comfortably. We do know that it's already consumed its item, so no chance of really recovering any health here.
There is no chance of it recovering health. That is correct. But again, it's all about this Kyurem, and Kyurem. It's all about how Meghan's going to target it down. And I know I keep saying that, but that really is the game that we're playing right here. It's possible that Brandon get the Kyurem this turn, maybe buy Tapu Fini some more time if it needs to get another Icy Wind down on the field, or maybe wants to go for something like a Nature's Madness into that Incineroar so it has even further health. But I like the forfeit here. I think Brandon knew that, the Kyurem White was, its days were numbered on the field. And even though we didn't really get to see it attack outside of that Earth Power, I think that forfeit was an indication that there is something else that he has on that Kyurem that he wants to keep secret going into Game 2.
Yeah, and I think part of the mark of that is understanding, I don't want to reveal too much information.
Yes.
There's nothing I can do about it, so might as well just throw in the towel and pivot again for Game 2. And I think You know, we were talking about how hard it was for Meghan because she had let all her Pokemon coming in take a lot of damage, but she managed to kind of work her way around that. That Precipice Blade's really helping kind of even the field out.
Yeah, but it was still a bit risky. I mean, she was essentially setting herself up to rely on Precipice Blades, which in a game that has, you know, all of the luck that it has, it paid off for her this time around, but I kind of want to see her take things a little bit safer going into game 2. You know, I think that she does have a lot of good tools on her team that she can use to sort of play the board a bit better, and especially when you know that Brandon's most likely going to stick to more of a slower strategy himself, given how he played that game and given the Pokemon that he chose to bring with him. She definitely has the capability to take advantage of that. I mean, even something as simple as using the Z move turn 1 to get like a huge knockout limits his switching options and would really sort of punish his style of gameplay from game 1.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's kind of tough, especially when you don't have as much information as you like. Like,
yes.
Obviously that Kyurem White is kind of that out there Pokemon.
It's that big question.
Yeah, and it's just like, what does it do and how do I stop it and what resources do I need to do that? But we'll see exactly how either like Brandon or Meghan adjust to see if they decide to adjust, because I think that game obviously ended up in favor of Meghan, but we are going to have Solgaleo and Kyurem now, those hard hitters out on the field on Brandon's side of the field. And we are going to be having a Xerneas Groudon though, so a lot of heavy hitters,
all right,
like from the get-go. So exactly what you wanted.
I know. Here's the party. This is going to be a really interesting turn, because I think it's safe to say, given Incineroar's prominence in the VGC 2019 metagame, that both of these trainers have an Incineroar waiting in the back of the party. The question is, do I switch it in? What do I switch it in for? What are the mind games going on? Xerneas on Meghan side of the field can feel safe right now, because we already saw the Sunsteel Strike from that Solgaleo, and that is such a huge threatening move that you can't even intimidate to sort of weaken the damage. I feel like she's almost going to be forced to protect the Xerneas and then switch in the Incineroar for the Groudon, hope that it hangs on so that then she could use something like a Fake Out or a Flare Blitz to give Xerneas more room the next turn. But that's completely ignoring the Kyurem. So on Brandon's side of the field, you have to wonder, maybe this was what he was trying to save the Kyurem for. Like, if he's going to go for a big play, like, why not now? You know, there's no Fake Out on the field. You know that it's either going to be a Protect or Switch. That's like the kind of situation I would think you'd look for if you want to start dealing big damage and really just throw your opponent off.
So we do get the Incineroar on the field, but it's going to be in place of that Xerneas as opposed to that Groudon from before. It does get Intimidate into the Kyurem. However, because of that Full Metal Body ability, that Solgaleo is still going to be at its attack level. We do have another withdraw to a switch from Brandon's side of the field.
Incineroar.
Everybody loves their cats, and we are going to get Intimidate, which is more important on that Groudon, obviously, because a lot of Incineroar can be trained to, you know, survive a Precipice Blades at -1, depending on what the item is there. That Sunsteel Strike, though, you know, that Xerneas is like, hey, I'm glad I got out of there, because do not want to take this attack at all. And now this Groudon kind of just free to go for an attack on.
Yeah, it's curious to me that the Solgaleo kind of left itself open to the Groudon hitting the field. I mean, yes, it's intimidated. The Precipice Blades is still going to connect, and that's still going to do a decent amount of damage. So I think Brandon definitely, you know, lost a little bit more in that turn than Meghan did when switching in that Incineroar. So he's going to have to play this turn carefully. I almost want him to maybe try and read where the Fake Out's going to go, and maybe use the fact that it's probably not going to go into his own Incineroar to try and either, one, save that Intimidate for later again, or two, maybe go for something like a knockoff, or otherwise hit big damage into this Groudon.
Gets that Solgaleo out there and brings in the Serena. So we do have the Fake Out from Brandon going this time into that Groudon. No Fake Out from that Incineroar, so a good call from Meghan on that. Goes for the U-turn instead, and allowing herself to kind of sort of get that pivot from her, from whatever Pokemon she has in the back. So that Serena was sort of his answer there. It just didn't pan out on this turn.
Yeah, his Serena was the answer to the Precipice Blades threat and the Fake Out as well, because of its Queenly Majesty ability that actually blocks all priority moves for your side of the field, which is really hard to remember because I'm used to the field being pink whenever that's a situation. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. It certainly is an interesting adjustment. I can assume that he brought this maybe over the Tapu Fini from game 1. And Serena, if it can attack, you know, it can deal a nice chunk of damage to Groudon. Like we saw, it disrupts the Fake Outs, but it's, you know, it's slower. I think that this Tapu Koko is going to be a lot faster, and it's going to have the opportunity to attack into that Incineroar. Nothing can really stop it. And then if Meghan's Groudon carries like a Fire-type move or something, she could just target down that Serena and get the knockout, I think.
Yeah, I still think Serena's a pretty good option, though, because it at least threatens some sort of damage onto
it does.
That Groudon as well. And, I mean, even that type of Coco, like, you know, taking any sort of damage from a high-attack Pokemon like Serena is kind of dangerous for Meghan still as well.
Yeah, and it's something that I think we're going to learn a little bit more about her Groudon as a result of this turn. If it switches out, which it is, that's either a sign that she doesn't have a Fire-type attack or she doesn't want to reveal if she has one or not yet. And also get the Intimidate down on the physical attacker, which is always a bonus.
Yeah, so that Incineroar is coming in for that Groudon now. As we got the Volt Switch actually from Meghan's side going into that Incineroar. Again, thanks to that boost from that terrain, also manages to pick up the knockout on here. So she doesn't have to worry about those Intimidate cycles anymore, and also allows her to bring back in one of her own Pokemon. I mean, we could see that Groudon again if she assumes that Brandon targeted down what was that Groudon spot, which is now the Incineroar spot as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting because this could also potentially be a free switch in for that Xerneas as well if she wants to try and get that Geomancy up. But I think the Groudon is the safer play, especially since it can't be intimidated anymore.
So this power is going to be going into it goes into what was that Groudon. So then Incineroar takes it so comfortably, and again that Intimidate really paying off there as well. That bar moved barely into the yellow, and I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for Brendan here just because now he's got to suffer from that. He doesn't have to worry about the fake out.
No,
because that Quinley Majesty. So this Groudon actually might be in a little bit of trouble.
It might be, but it's going to come down again to the Kyurem. So this is where we learn about the Kyurem finally, I hope. It's possible.
This turn for sure.
I know, I keep saying that, but then it's like more switching happens. I think, honestly, this is commentator's bias. I want to know what it does. Tell me what it does.
Well, and I think like it's a good setup for Brandon because one, he doesn't have to worry about that Incineroar's fake out, and so he knows that Megan's gonna have to either do some move or she's either gonna have to attack or switch out, and like there's no protect but goes for the fate into the Groudon. So
yeah, break the potential protect, which means we're gonna be seeing some big damage.
Is that pause for Z move?
Yeah. Okay. What dance is it? What dance is
it? That is.
I don't think I've ever seen that dance.
I love that because Lily in the anime does it in the end credits, and it's the cutest thing ever with her Vulpix. It's so cute.
God. Okay. So a Sub-Zero Slammer from this Kyurem White, obviously going to do some big damage and super effective damage as well into that Groudon. That has to be enough.
It's definitely enough.
That has to be enough.
I'm actually curious to see how many people have actually seen this animation, if this is their first time, because ICMZ is not something that you ever really see there, right?
No.
We do have the Flare Blitz from Incineroar going to be boosted by that Sun, going to go into that Kyurem. Even with that like part ice typing, it's still like holding on, manages to get the knockout on the Groudon, which is the most important part of this turn for Brandon. And Incineroar does heal up with that berry.
I really do like how a lot of Incineroar are running those pinch berries right now, and then they set themselves up so that when they do Flare Blitz, they take recoil damage, and then they get to eat their berry and go back up. It's like one of my favorite little like quirks, I think, about the 2019 metagame that we get to showcase. The Xerneas coming out here, though, I think is going to be really great for Meghan. This is the turn you can set up Geomancy, or like we saw in Game 1, just go for the Moonblast into that Kyurem, knock it right out. That Serena, as scary as it is, and as high of attack as it is, I think the Incineroar should move first with a Flare Blitz or something and either knock it out, or otherwise it still is intimidated. So even though the Groudon is off the field, if Xerneas can either knock out that Kyurem or go for the Geomancy this turn, I think Meghan's still in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the rule still stands, I think, for Xerneas. If you can set up Xerneas, then you're in a very good spot. And I don't know how close the Incineroar was to being knocked out last time with Earth Power.
I'm not sure. I don't think it was, I think it had more chip on it than what it has right now.
Yeah, but Solgaleo is coming in for that Serena, so it is at half health, but we know that it can deal with Xerneas very nicely. And Xerneas just going straight for that Moonblast, no setup this turn, wants to get rid of that Kyurem. And if there's another Flare Blitz going into that Solgaleo, that's just going to be bad for Brandon right there.
Yeah, it's a really curious switch. I think that Brandon wanted to drop the Intimidate from that Serena, but the unfortunate side effect of that is that Solgaleo is going to get hit by a Flare Blitz in the Sun, and that's going to be a knockout. So you have to wonder, like, did he have any other options there? Maybe the Solgaleo could have came in fresh this turn and then gotten one attack off before It was knocked out by a flare blitz, but even then, just really well played by Meghan, kind of showcasing that, she didn't need the geomancy. She had really good control of the field, and even though Brandon did have the Curum White, I think it just needed more damage.
I would also like to point out, Meghan never used the Z move in either of these two matches.
Oh, right, you're right.
She did not use the Z move. Now she's just geomancing here, and I think just
making
why
us
not?
talk for a little bit more, I guess.
Well, what's the interesting thing is that with that Serena and that Sogaleo in the back, no matter what happened, something was going to get knocked out because of that flare blitz, and I think that's the tough part there. And I don't know what Brandon was expecting that Incineroar to do, because flare blitz was really its only option in that spot. And I mean, there's a high jump kick, and it would have been just unfortunate if it missed for Brandon. That's just adding salt to the wound.
Yeah.
But does pick up the knockout there, obviously, on that Incineroar. I think, I'm glad we got to see the Curum White, and we got to see the ICMZ. So for those of you who don't know what it looked like, there you go. But it's just, getting rid of that Groudon was fine, but Meghan had so many other options available to her.
She did. And you have to, kind of replay that game back a little bit and sort of figure out, what the adjustments were and, where Brendan really sort of lost that momentum. And I think it was the fact that his own Incineroar got knocked out so close to the beginning of the match. Because in game one, that was really the crux of his strategy. Just keep cycling those Intimidates, keep forcing Meghan to switch. She might find an out eventually in the form of Precipice Blades, but I have a chance that Precipice Blades doesn't connect.
Right.
It's not a great chance, but if that's my out with a matchup, then that's the out I'm going to take.
Yeah.
So game two, I think I liked the Serena adjustment on paper. Maybe his idea was that the Queensley Majesty could stop the fake out and then high jump kick, but unfortunately for him, I just don't think the timing was really right in his execution.
I think the feint ICMZ turn was also really good, and if he hadn't expected the Groudon to not protect, if he had done damage into the Incineroar, we could have been looking at a different game as well. Because I think calling the feint and doubling down into that Pokemon is always a really tough one as well, right? Because either way you get damage into that, but then your opponent's the Pokemon by its side also gets that free damage into whatever else you have on the side of the field. So I mean, I'm still impressed that I didn't see a Z-move from Meghan, because I was expecting Z-moves from both players every single time. So
well, I think it goes to show you that you don't really necessarily need a Z-move in order to win games in the Moon format. I mean, you should probably have a Z-move on your team. And
if you forget, don't admit it.
or that, yeah. But you don't necessarily have to use those big damage moves if you have other outs, and Meghan just had those outs available to her.
Yeah,
so.
And we'll be actually getting Meghan back here very quickly and very shortly for an interview, so don't go anywhere, guys. Stay right there.